The wind howled through the cracked pavement of the old grocery store parking lot, tugging litter into lazy spirals beneath flickering street lamps. It was a place people rushed through, never lingered. The paint on the parking lines had faded, and potholes peppered the asphalt like pockmarks on a tired face. Yet, amid all this bleakness, something small and unexpected crouched behind a dumpster near the back of the lot. A black rabbit. His fur was as dark as midnight, matted in places, with tiny leaves and bits of gravel clinging stubbornly to him. His nose twitched every few seconds, alert to every change in scent, fear, uncertainty, even hope clinging to his breaths. He didn't have a name. No collar. No one looking for him. No warm hutch waiting nearby. He had been here for days, maybe weeks. Time had blurred. No one knew where he had come from. Sometimes at night, the rabbit would sneak out from behind the dumpster to nibble at the browning weeds that pushed up defiantly through the concrete cracks. A nearby pizza place would toss scraps into the bin, and now and then a piece of crust would fall within reach. On luckier days, a passerby might notice him and toss a baby carrot from a salad container. But those moments were rare. Most people didn't even see him. They were too busy rushing to their cars, their minds far away. One night, during a downpour, the rabbit was forced from his usual dry corner. Rain flattened his ears, chilled his tiny body, and soaked into his fur until he could barely move. He huddled beneath a rusting cart return station, trembling violently. That was the night he stopped hoping someone might help. But help, sometimes, comes when it's least expected. It was a chilly Sunday morning when 12-year-old Molly Thompson spotted something strange from the backseat of her mom's car. They had just pulled into the lot to grab a few groceries before heading to Grandma's house. "Mom, stop the car," she said suddenly. Her mom, Rachel, slowed and glanced in the rearview mirror. "What is it?" "There's a rabbit. I swear I just saw a rabbit under the cart thing." Rachel sighed. "Molly, it's probably just a trash bag or..." "No. Look. Right there." Molly pressed her forehead to the window. "He's black. And he's all wet and..." "Mom, please." Rachel pulled into the space slowly and parked. She looked over, squinting. Sure enough, something small and dark huddled near the edge of the metal cart rack. "Oh my gosh," Rachel whispered. "What's a rabbit doing out here?" Molly was already unbuckling her seatbelt. "Wait, don't spook him," Rachel said quickly, getting out of the car more cautiously. But the rabbit didn't bolt. He turned his head slightly, eyes wide and tired. He looked like he'd given up running a long time ago. Molly approached with slow steps, crouching down when she got close. "Hi there," she whispered. "Are you okay?" The rabbit didn't move. He just shivered. "Mom, I think something's really wrong." Rachel walked closer and pulled her coat tighter around her. "He's soaking wet. Poor thing." "Molly, stay back. I don't know if he'll bite." But Molly gently reached out her hand. "Hey, it's okay, we're not going to hurt you." For a moment, she thought he might hop away, but he didn't. He just sat there, eyes fixed on her as though trying to decide if she was real or just another dream. And slowly, so slowly, he leaned his cold nose into her palm. Rachel stared. I don't believe it." Molly scooped him up, holding him close to her chest. He didn't fight. He didn't wiggle. He just collapsed into her arms like he'd finally found a place to rest. "Can we take him home?" Molly asked immediately, eyes pleading. Well, we don't know if he's sick or belongs to someone," Rachel hesitated. "But we can't leave him like this. Let's get him warm first." Back at their house, the rabbit was gently dried with a towel and wrapped in a soft fleece blanket. Molly made him a little nest in a laundry basket lined with old sweaters, and they gave him water and some lettuce from the fridge. The rabbit nibbled slowly, suspiciously, but his eyes never left Molly's. "He's so quiet," Rachel observed later. "Too quiet." "He's just scared," Molly whispered, sitting beside the basket with her knees pulled to her chest. "But he trusts me. I can tell." They made a few posts on local lost pet forums and checked in with nearby shelters over the next few days, but no one came forward. It was as if the rabbit had fallen out of the sky. Molly named him Shadow. Each day, Shadow began to emerge from his shell. At first, he wouldn't leave the basket unless Molly was there. Then, he began to follow her around the living room, always a few quiet hops behind her feet. He never made noise, never caused trouble. just watched and waited, like he didn't want to be a burden. When Molly did her homework, Shadow would sit beside her chair. When she played piano, he'd sit under the bench, ears tilted toward the notes. He didn't ask for anything, but Molly gave him everything. "You're not just a rabbit," she whispered one night, stroking his ears. "You're family now. But peace is a fragile thing." 2 weeks after Shadow was rescued, a knock came at the front door one rainy afternoon. Rachel opened it and found a stern-looking man in a blue jacket standing there with a clipboard. "Good afternoon. I'm from Animal Control. We received a report about an unregistered domestic rabbit being kept at this residence." Molly appeared in the hallway, her heart dropping into her stomach. "We're just trying to verify a few things," the man continued. "We'll need to see the animal and determine if he was reported lost." Rachel stood firm. He was abandoned in a parking lot. No tags, no chip. "We checked with shelters and posted online. No one claimed him." "I understand, ma'am," the man said, flipping through his paperwork. "But if someone reports him missing now, we may be required to return him. Or, if he is deemed a stray, he may be transferred to a registered rescue facility." "No," Molly said, stepping forward. "Please, he doesn't have anyone else." The man sighed. "I'll return tomorrow for a full check. Please have the animal available." As he walked back to his van, Shadow poked his head out from behind the couch, as though he knew something was wrong. Molly dropped to her knees and pulled him into her arms. "I'm not letting them take you," she whispered. "No way." But the storm had just begun. The sky was gray the next morning. Rain tapped against the windows like impatient fingers, and a hush settled over the Thompson house. Molly didn't sleep much the night before. She kept waking up to check on Shadow, who now refused to leave her side. It was as if he sensed something looming. His usual calm had turned wary. The knock on the door came at precisely 9:00. Rachel opened it with a forced smile. The same man from Animal Control stood on the porch, this time accompanied by a woman in a pale green coat holding a scanner. "We'll try to make this quick," he said, polite but firm. Molly sat on the couch, holding Shadow in her lap. The rabbit didn't move as the woman approached with the scanner, waving it slowly along his back. Beep. Rachel and Molly's hearts stopped. "He's chipped," the woman said, surprised. "It's an older model, but the ID is still active." "No way," Molly breathed. "We checked for a chip at the vet. They didn't find anything. Some older chips don't get picked up by basic readers," the woman explained. "We've got more advanced ones now." She tapped on a tablet and pulled up the chip's information. Her eyebrows lifted. "Huh, this is interesting. What is it?" Rachel asked. The man stepped forward. "Looks like this rabbit was registered 2 years ago, to someone named Dr. Sylvie Graham." Rachel blinked. "That name sounds familiar." "She's a researcher," the woman added, turning the screen toward them. "Local university. Studies animal cognition and behavior." Molly held Shadow tighter. "What does that mean? Is she coming to take him back?" "We'll need to contact her. By law, if a pet has a registered chip, it's considered her property," the man said gently. "But, if she no longer claims him, or if she relinquishes ownership, then you might be able to adopt him officially." Molly's throat felt tight. "But what if she wants him back?" "We don't know that yet," the woman replied. "Sometimes people lose animals and never expect to see them again. Let's reach out and see what she says." The next few hours dragged like years. Molly sat on the floor with Shadow beside her, one hand stroking his back as her mind raced. Shadow was hers. She knew that deep in her soul. He chose her. They had healed each other. How could someone just come and take him away? Finally, the phone rang. Rachel answered, spoke for a moment, and then turned to Molly. "She's coming over," Rachel said. "She wants to meet you." "And Shadow. Is she taking him?" Molly whispered. She didn't say. Dr. Sylvie Graham arrived an hour later. She was tall, sharp-featured, with silver-streaked hair pulled into a bun and bright, intelligent eyes behind square glasses. She didn't come in with an air of authority, just quiet curiosity. "I didn't think I'd ever see him again," she said softly, kneeling in front of Molly. "His name was Nero." Shadow didn't move. "He was one of my research rabbits." "Not for testing," she added quickly. "My work focuses on emotional intelligence and animal-human bonding. Nero was special, exceptionally smart, too smart." "What happened?" Molly asked. Sylvie's expression turned distant. One day, his enclosure was left open. He vanished. I thought maybe a staff member let him out by accident. We searched everywhere, but there were no leads. I was heartbroken. Why didn't you update the microchip info? Rachel asked. I didn't think it mattered anymore. After a year, I assumed he was gone for good. Sylvie looked back at Shadow, her face tender. But here he is. Shadow looked at her, but there was no spark of recognition. No eager response. He just sat still, his eyes steady. Sylvie noticed. He doesn't remember me, does he? Molly shook her head. He's been through so much. He was freezing when we found him. Barely eating. I think he gave up on people, until now. Sylvie sighed and sat on the edge of the coffee table. Molly, may I ask you something? Okay. Has he done anything unusual? Responded to your voice, seemed to anticipate your movements? Anything like that? Molly hesitated. He follows me everywhere. If I leave the room, he waits at the door. When I play piano, he gets calmer. He even seems to know when I'm sad. He'll nudge my hand or sit on my feet until I pet him. Sylvie smiled wistfully. That's him. He was always tuned into emotion. More than the others. I called him my empath. There was a long pause. Then Sylvie stood. He's not mine anymore, she said gently. Not really. I can see it. He's chosen you now. Molly blinked. Wait, you're letting us keep him? If you'll have him, yes, Sylvie nodded. He's bonded with you, and from what I can see, he's happy. I think that matters more than any old registry. Molly hugged Shadow close, relief crashing over her like a wave. Thank you so much. But I would like to visit him sometime. Just to see how he's doing. You can visit whenever you want, Molly said quickly. He'll always be safe here. That evening, the house was warm and calm again. Shadow had curled up on the rug near the fireplace, his body completely relaxed for the first time in weeks. Molly watched the flames dance, a mug of cocoa in her hand, Shadow's ears twitching gently beside her. I don't care what your name was before, she whispered. To me, you'll always be Shadow. And Shadow, as if in answer, pressed his tiny head into her ankle. But even the strongest bonds face trials. A week later, as spring teased the air with warmer winds, Molly took Shadow out into the backyard for the first time. He hopped carefully through the grass, ears perked, nose twitching at every dandelion. Molly laughed, spinning in the grass while Shadow explored. That's when the hawk came. It appeared without warning, a silent shadow slicing through the air, talons outstretched. Molly screamed. Shadow darted to the side, but the bird was fast. Too fast. Then, in the blur of wings and claws, something unexpected happened. Shadow didn't freeze. He didn't panic. He lunged toward Molly, pushing against her legs as though to shove her down. The hawk overshot, missing them both. Molly hit the ground, arms over her head, heart thundering. By the time she looked up, the hawk had disappeared into the trees. Shadow stood over her, shaking but tall. Shadow, she gasped, pulling him into her arms. You protected me? And in that moment, Molly knew, this rabbit wasn't just emotionally intelligent. He was something more. Spring had fully arrived. The days were longer, the breeze warmer, and the air smelled of tulips and honeysuckle. In the backyard, birds chirped from the fence and bees drifted lazily past clusters of clover. It was the kind of peace Molly had only dreamed of during long, heavy winters. Now, it belonged to her and Shadow. Shadow had changed. Not physically, his fur was still inky black, his ears tall and expressive, but something in his posture, his awareness, had shifted. He was no longer the trembling creature they'd rescued from the cold. Now, he moved with confidence. He looked people in the eye. He listened, and more importantly, he understood. He had become more than a pet. He was family, protector, friend, and Molly was finally happy. But peace, she would learn, is a fragile thing. The first sign came in the mail. A letter, in a plain white envelope. No return address. Rachel read it at the kitchen table, her brow furrowing with every line. Molly watched, heart sinking. What is it? She asked. Rachel sighed and set the letter down. It's from a research lab, she said. They're claiming Shadow, well, Nero, was part of a federally funded animal intelligence program. Classified, even. And now they want him back. No, Molly said immediately, voice sharp. They can't have him. They say he's property of the government. That he has unique genetic traits, something about enhanced neural pathways. They didn't explain much, but they sound serious. Molly grabbed Shadow from the floor and held him tight. He's not a project. He's a living being. He's mine. Rachel looked conflicted. I know, sweetheart. But we need to be careful. If they push this legally, we can call Dr. Graham, Molly said, an idea sparking in her mind. She worked with him. She can help us. Dr. Sylvie Graham arrived the next morning, her face pale and worried. I never thought they'd come looking for him, she said. But I should have known. Nero, Shadow, wasn't just different. He was exceptional. His memory, his emotional responses, he could even recognize faces after months. He used to warn the other rabbits when storms were coming. It wasn't instinct, it was almost like intuition. Is that why he protected me from the hawk? Molly asked. Sylvie nodded. Probably. He didn't just care about you, he knew what danger looked like. And he chose to defend you. Molly stroked his ears. So what do we do? I might have a contact, Sylvie said after a pause. Someone who helped me leave the program years ago. He owes me a favor. But we'll need proof that Shadow isn't just government property. Proof he has a life here, that he's bonded. He has everything here, Molly whispered. They'll have to go through me. That night, Molly couldn't sleep. She lay on her side with Shadow tucked beneath her chin. His breathing was soft and slow. But her thoughts raced like thunder. How could people think they owned him? That he was nothing but a tool to study? They didn't know him like she did. They hadn't seen him press his nose against her tear-streaked cheek, or sit beside her through piano lessons, or dig tiny holes just to hide her drawings. Shadow was more than smart. He was good. And sometimes, goodness was its own kind of magic. The men came 3 days later. Unmarked van. 2 strangers in suits. No smiles. They spoke to Rachel. Calm. Polite. Firm. They carried documents, orders, signatures, threats wrapped in legal wording. We just want the animal, one said. There won't be any trouble. But when they stepped into the house, Shadow was already gone. Molly had taken him at dawn. She didn't tell Rachel. She left a note on her pillow, grabbed her backpack, and wrapped Shadow in a blanket. Together, they fled. Not forever. Just until she could think. Until she could protect him. They caught the early bus out of town, riding through the hills to the cabin her grandparents once owned. It had been empty for years, but she remembered the key hidden behind the loose stone by the chimney. Inside, dust filled the air, and the fireplace was cold. But there were still blankets, a kettle, and a single, creaky bed. They lit a fire. They waited. For hours, for days. It was on the 3rd night that everything changed. Molly was asleep, but Shadow was awake. Outside, something moved in the darkness. A quiet shuffle. Then a voice, low, urgent. Shadow? Nero? The rabbit froze. Another voice. We've tracked the chip to this location. He's close. Signals strong. A faint beep confirmed it. Shadow jumped from the bed and ran to Molly. He tugged at her shirt, panicked, his paws pressing into her chest. She blinked awake. What's wrong? Then she heard the door handle jiggle. Her heart dropped. She bolted up, scooped Shadow, and ran to the back. The cabin had a cellar, small, cramped, but safe. She pushed open the hatch, slid inside, and pulled it shut. Boots thudded upstairs. Clear the rooms. Flashlights cut through the dark. Molly held Shadow close, whispering, please, please, please. Then, nothing. Just silence. Eventually, the men left. But something had changed in Shadow. As they emerged from the cellar, Molly saw it in his eyes, alert, glassy, far off. Shadow? She whispered. He looked at her, blinked, and then licked her hand. He had made a choice. The next morning, they returned home. What happened next was unexpected. Dr. Graham had called in every favor she had. A lawyer had taken their case. And the story hit local news. Girl fights to keep emotional support rabbit targeted by secret research lab. People rallied. Hundreds sent messages. Artists drew Shadow. Kids wrote letters. Activists spoke out. And suddenly, Shadow wasn't just a rabbit. He was hope. A quiet little hero who had found his way out of cold and darkness and into a girl's heart. And the government? They backed down. The chip was deactivated. Shadow's ownership was transferred officially. And Molly signed the papers herself, grinning through tears. He's ours, Rachel said that evening. Forever. Molly knelt down and wrapped her arms around her brave black rabbit. Welcome home. Years passed. Molly grew. Shadow aged, his movements slower, his naps longer. But the bond between them never faded. She would sit by the window with him nestled beside her, writing stories, sketching animals, playing the piano while he rested nearby. And when it was finally his time, years later, he passed away in her arms, peaceful, warm, loved. She buried him beneath the old cherry tree, wrapped in his favorite blue blanket, surrounded by flowers. On the stone she carved a single line: "The rabbit who found me, and never let go." And every spring, as the blossoms bloomed and the wind stirred through the petals, Molly would whisper, "You were never just a rabbit. You were my heart." And somewhere, on the breeze, in the hush of leaves, she always felt him answer,